Welcome back. Well, no further actions to be taken against Feed a Child SA after its recent advert sparked a racial row across social media. The advert shows a white woman feeding a young black boy like a dog. Advertising agency Ogilvy and Mather has since apologized for the ad. But what damage has been caused by this advert? Well, let's find out. Now, to talk about it, I'm joined by Andy Rice, branding and advertising expert. Andy, thank you for joining us on Morning News Today this morning. Did you find this ad offensive?
Not in the slightest.
Why?
Well, because I think that we have forgotten to ask the question, what is really offensive here? Is it the piece of advertising that is ephemeral and will be consigned to history in a matter of weeks, or is it in fact the masses of malnutrition that goes on in this country, hungry kids everywhere? That's the really offensive issue. And I think that anything that attempts to address that issue has to be seen in that context. For me, this was a piece of advertising that was based on a premise, and if that premise is valid, that many kids are fed less well than dogs in privileged households, then we have a right to air that issue, and to air it in this way. As far as I'm concerned, it's a shocking ad, but that's what ads are meant to do. Ads are meant to be there to break through the clutter of the massive messages that we receive every day. And if one polishes them and refines them to the point where there is nothing left to shock, they don't get seen, and who loses out? Those hungry kids.
Do you think this has affected the actual charitable organization in a way that people might think, on the other hand, as much as they grab the attention, which is what advertising is supposed to do, but it might actually harm the sort of support that they receive in terms of donations?
No, I don't think so. I would think that in a rather perverse way, this has elevated the awareness of Feed a Child as an organization. And I think for every one person who expresses this kind of politically correct shock and horror, there are many hundreds who look at it and understand the metaphor that is behind the advertising. If you take advertising literally in every respect, then a whole genre of communication is automatically disqualified. I can remember probably 25, 30 years ago when one of our major computing companies, ISM or IBM as it's better known, ran an advertisement depicting elephants hatching out of eggs. It was a famous piece of historical advertising, and there was a furore that this was undermining the work of biology curricula around the country by teaching kids that elephants hatch from eggs. Obviously that's nonsense, and it's a tiny minority who take that literally. If we're denied the use of metaphor in our advertising, we're denied an enormous opportunity for advertising to play a positive role in society, which I think this ad does.
And lots of comments, just judging friends, family, even colleagues that I've been speaking to, talking about the message of the advert was right, but maybe, just maybe, it should have been done in a different way. That it wouldn't have caused such an upset if maybe we had used children of different race groups instead of just the one, which in this country some might think, would spark the reaction that it got.
Well, we do live in a multicultural society, and advertising has to reflect that. And you could argue that perhaps if some research had been done, there might have been some fine-tuning. But I come back to the point that if you make it inoffensive to everyone, you make it invisible to everyone. And the purpose of the advertising was to make people sit up and think, my goodness me, here are household pets who are more privileged than many children. We ought to take action. If you deny them that opportunity to make that message clear and evident out there, then you deny them the opportunity to receive the benefits they're trying to acquire. Do
you think some of the reaction that this ad received was sparked by guilt?
I suppose that's a possibility, yes, and that's why I think that the people who have taken some kind of public offence ought to be interrogating themselves as to where the real issue lies.
In terms of the action that was taken after this, the pulling of the ad and all of that, do you think that was the wrong thing to do, that they should have stuck to their guns?
Disappointing. I'm really disappointed that it should even be raised with the ASA. I'm particularly disappointed that the advertising agency chose to apologise. I have enormous admiration for the agency in question. They have stood their ground on many other issues historically. They have a reputation for understanding that the big ideal is as important as the big idea, and I think that their late and much lamented chairman Robin Putter would have been disappointed also that they bowed to a small amount of misguided public pressure.
So what does this mean now for advertising in this country, especially when it comes down to race? Does it mean now our ad agency is going to have to tiptoe around the general population?
Advertising has to reflect the realities of the society that it's trying to modify, and you can't wish that away. And if that's the landscape that you operate within, then you need to reflect it, and you need to say, in this way we think we can improve it. And that's precisely what this advertising was trying to do.
All right, well, let's see what the next move will be, what the next ad will be like. Thank you very much, Andy Rice, branding and advertising expert.
You deserve to know more.
eNCA.com